Awesome. Thanks for the introduction there, Mary. So, just some extra context on who Bob Kelly is. Bob Kelly runs the Sales Management Association. He's been in and around outside sales for 30 plus years and starting out in consulting with large outside sales teams at a consulting group, and then moving into the VP of Sales and Operations role for about a decade at, I think it's called General Parts down in Atlanta. So, he's very familiar with the problems that outside sales teams face. And so this is a problem that's near and dear to us and my customers as well, of course, being in the CRM space, right? So I think this is kind of the marquee slide to start things off. And it's no surprise there there's very much kind of this, like general doom and gloom about, CRM and the industry. And it's not, without good reason, right? When Bob Kelly went out and did this research a few years back, he has a sample size of, about 50 firms here. And overall, what he found was that most of them are, sort of not achieving their expectations, right? They're underachieving expectations on both adoption as well as the return on investment they think that they're getting with CRM. So, you know, with all the attention that's put on CRM and with so many firms really failing at getting the adoption and ROI that they're looking for, why would firms insist on continuing to, use a bad CRM or even look for a new one if it's going to end up failing anyways, right? So next slide, Mary. I think the reason that, and you don't have to read everything on the slide here at once. I'm going to talk through this pretty slowly, but one of the big reasons is because the ROI for those firms that do it well is huge, right? The few sales organizations that is, in which CRM works well, are absolutely crushing the sales teams where CRM doesn't work well. They have 40% higher levels on average of sales objective or quota achievement. On average, the salespeople are hitting 63% of their quota compared to 41 for those who have poorly implemented CRM. And overall, they're just significantly less distracted, these sales reps on these teams with well implemented CRM, by low value activities that they might have to continue to put up with in their current situation, right? So that being said, research does suggest that these firms, in which CRM adoption or ROI are chronically underperforming, they might actually be better off no longer using CRM altogether, divorcing from it completely. In these sorts of situations, there are firms out there where CRM actually destroys more value than it creates. That is, a problem that we see quite a bit. You're adding a lot of, why would that be? It's a situation where essentially you're adding a lot of low value work for sales team, for sales reps to do, and it's honestly not creating as much value as it is taking away, very very expensive time, that your sales reps don't have very much of. So overall here, that's problematic, right? Because the problem with losing CRM altogether, as much as it might be great to just ditch it, is that you could be losing important information around customer touch points, the customer life cycle, the sales process in general, that could really help not just your sales team, but your entire organization operate more efficiently. So I'll pause there real quick because I want to take a look at this quote at the bottom left. And this was during the conversation with Bob Kelly that this came up. And, this is not a slight on the industry. It's just, an observation of some organizations that are not operating that efficiently. And what can happen is, there are these more tenured reps, maybe they've been around for 40 years or close to retirement, and they've seen systems come and go many times, and rightfully so. They're not going to adopt a solution until they see it helping others, right? So two things here. You really need to think about, with your CRM, whatever it might be, maybe you even have multiple of them. You're really gonna need a tool that gets adopted, right? One that's easy to use, focused on ease of use, probably has a good mobile interface, because for reps to adopt it, they need to be reducing the amount of low value activities that they're doing. And on the other hand, in most cases, it's also not a good idea to mandate usage. Now, that would be great for companies like ours to mandate usage, of course, but you really want to pull people in. You want to make the tool useful. They need to want to use it on their own, right? So in general here, there's a lot at stake. Your sales culture is at stake here. people leaving, people silently quitting. That can happen if you're in a situation where they're forced to input low value activities that take 15 minutes because they need to connect to a VPN before they, on their hotspot before they get to their, old desktop application side of, their PC that takes, 50 different required fields to submit an activity to. So that's on one side of the spectrum, of course, but you really need to make sure that you're enabling your salespeople in the right way here, to not just sit in their car and log data for 3 hours a day. So I'll pause there real quick. I think we had a couple of chat questions as well.
Oh, that was just me, Matt. I
Oh,
think,
I see.
yeah, I'd like to add another like silent killer in there, and I think that's double data entry. So you mentioned a lot of obstacles that are put in the place of outside sales reps, and a huge one if the tool isn't easy to use and mobile first, and that we've heard a lot is I have to log my data in multiple places. So I might be in my car, I might write some notes down on a post-it or a notebook or in my phone, and then I have to transfer those to a desktop CRM and then it's uploaded. So I think that's another kind of silent killer because people just don't want to do that. It's just extra work. It feels really monotonous and it doesn't feel important. It doesn't make them feel valuable.
Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree with that. People outside sales is all about autonomy, and you don't want to take that away from folks. And CRM has the capability to give them more autonomy if you implement it the right way, rather than just take it away from them. So something to keep in mind as food for thought. So now that we've covered some of the challenges with ROI and challenges with adoption with CRM, as well as how successful deployments of it can be huge home runs for the right firms, how do we know that we're on the right track for a successful deployment? If we go to the next slide here, one thing that has almost always been true is that adoption is the gold standard of success in CRM world, right? And you hear a lot about it, right? I'm not getting the adoption I want to, or I'm really happy with the adoption that we're getting. Adoption is the bellwether metric, the leading metric for CRM's organizational value. And as long as there have been CRM implementations, there have been managers who worry about this, right? And are a little bit angsty over the lack of the adoption that they're seeing. And 3 decades later, the problem is that could it couldn't be even more true today than it was 30 years back, right? Less than 1 in 3 firms, 30%, achieve complete adoption, where everybody in the sales team is using the CRM system. That is not very many teams. So with all this research from Bob Kelly, and having had a follow-up call with him on this particular topic, it's particularly hard for outside sales teams to get this adoption. They're not behind the desk, and they've a lot more moving pieces than your average. I'm going to steal this quote from one of our customers. They're not your average desk jockey, right? They have a lot of moving pieces. It's always a juggling act. What their schedule is going to look like. They got a lot of things to manage, right? But there might be more success than just making your team use the tool, right? And that's kind of the heart of the next slide here is there is more to it than adoption. There are things that you can do to get to where you want to be with your successful, CRM deployment. And so I think this is probably one of the most interesting slides we have for you today, right? And this is on what actually matters for CRM success. It's actually it's everyone's natural inclination when looking at software that it's the features that you want, the features that make you choose a system. The more, the better, right? Really not necessarily the case here, right? So with this research, done by the SMA here, we can see that features aren't even that important to firms, and they're not even that effective at implementing them, right? The things that stand out here are ease of use, management buy-in, and integrations with other systems. That is to say, getting multiple sources of information into your one system, your CRM, so that it's easily accessible and reps can see it at a glance, right? Now, the one thing I do want to point out though about this is even though all three of these are very important, integration stands out. Integration stands out as the leading miss on why firms cannot effectively implement CRM. It has a higher than average importance to a firm And on average, firms are less effective at achieving the level of integration that they're looking for. So, integration is a big topic, and it can mean a lot of things, especially if you're using legacy systems, multiple different ERP systems, different system for PMI. You name it, you've probably got it. But you do need to try to consolidate as best you can, if you're looking to sort of drive towards a successful deployment of CRM. So on the next slide,
Oh,
there's three.
I want to hit on something really quick, Matt. I think integration, we've been hearing more and more how important that is. Like we're seeing a lot of customers from manufacturing, distribution, wholesale, like a lot of excitement around what my customers can do. And naturally in manufacturing and distribution organizations, I come from that background, so I know the ERP is heavily utilized for with their manufacturing operations, their accounting team, their delivery team, and then like finance and leadership, because you can pull a lot of good profit numbers, margin numbers, product packaging numbers from the ERP system. But what almost always happens in manufacturing orgs is the CRM doesn't integrate, or it does integrate because maybe you bought Oracle and you get Oracle CRM along with Oracle's ERP, but Oracle CRM is terrible and your outside reps hate it. So integration does seem to be a really interesting point here when you look at the needs of companies who want to not just consolidate their tech stack, but like create a tech stack ecosystem. So yeah, I just wanted to highlight how important that seems to be recently.
Absolutely. So let's talk about where you might be in your journey of CRM today, right? And we we really find three situations when we work with companies. They either have a CRM, nobody uses it. They don't have a CRM at all because frankly they've been burned before by it and they don't want to go through that experience 2 or 3 times. Or they've never had it, but they really know that they need one, right? And that could be for many different reasons. So for the first one here, let's talk about that one. You have a CRM, maybe nobody uses it, or you're not quite getting the adoption that you're looking for. You know, you can go back and take a look at what you're integrating with today, or are you getting the information that you need into the system, right? That could be marketing automation integration, it could be ERP integration, getting sales order information into your system. Take a deeper look at why nobody is using it. Don't just, necessarily assume that your reps are not doing what they're being told. Take a look at, are they not using it because, and this is obviously something that you can figure out pretty quickly. Are they not using it because, quite frankly, it's not working for them, it's working against them? The second instance where you have no, you've been burned before, you don't have a CRM today, I do I should recommend, that you go back to the things that matter for deployment of CRM success, right? What the system that you had before that you were burned by, did it have good ease of use? Did it have support from your management team? Did you have the integration with the right information that you needed to come into the tool? Can you find a solution that ticks all three of these boxes, right? And then the final one here, no CRM, and you know that you need one. Maybe you're thinking about all the features in the world, right? And that it'll be great to have, XYZ. Again, that's not really what matters. If this research is to leave you with anything today, it's that, look at vetting solutions through the lens of ease of use, ease of integration, ability to get management buy-in and behind the tool. Those are the things that are really going to determine whether or not this gets adopted and ultimately succeeds. So, this is really interesting because when we look at the graph here on the right, more than 50% of firms think that over a dozen different features are crucial to deployment success of CRM. The reality, though, is that the majority of firms are only effective at implementing 3 of these things, right? The truth is that when you go back and think about how your firm implements CRM, make sure you're paying attention to the people who will be using the system day to day. Your reps, right? Are they getting the information they need? Are they getting the support that they need? Is it easy to use? Is it working for them instead of against them? And I think that's the last slide we have here. But again, like this is a story that I think Kim, very well. Obviously, Mary, you've known this for quite some time in your career as well. Like it's a hard thing to get right, and it can take a lot of change, and that can be scary. I think there's forces that push and pull against CRM deployment success. Um, and if you can just align against some of the, three things that we talked about: management support, ease of use, integration, those are some good, those are some sort of good, compasses to pay attention to, and to, that will really help you as you go through wherever, implementing CRM, wherever you're at in your journey today. So
Yeah, and I want to like highlight, and I'm sure Kim could speak to this a little bit, is that management support. So I think it's easy to see that word like management buy-in and support and think that's your VP of sales, your head of sales, even like CEO, COO. But that can actually be your middle layer too. So almost like that middle management layer who's conducting one-on-ones. They act as that kind of player coach in their role. So having them bought in and encouraging use is so key because they straddle that layer so well between company leadership and then boots on the ground. So just want to like challenge folks to expand their thinking of what management means.
all right, we've got to have a few questions here.
Yeah, I'll leave it open in the chat for a little bit, and if anybody wants to raise their hand, we can bring them on too. Yeah, Matt, this was super interesting. Is there any other color from your talk with Bob that you want to add in as we're waiting for folks to submit any questions or comments?
Yeah, I think, it was a really interesting conversation with Bob. Overall, I think we covered the meat of it, for sure. I think in general, it's one of the things that if I could leave everyone here with one thing, it's that it is a fight worth fighting. And that was kind of what Bob told me. He was like, this is a problem worth solving, right? Nobody's gotten it right. And, I think these problems have existed forever, right? And when you take a look at the jobs that your reps are trying to accomplish, right, in the field, and even the jobs that your managers and you yourselves as leaders are trying to accomplish with the CRM, these problems have existed in the past. They exist today. They will exist in the future. The question is how well and how well do we do at solving for these problems, right? How well do we enable our sales team? How well do we enable ourselves as managers and leaders to get the reports and the insights that we need from the field? You know, again, like whatever you do, there's many different solutions out there that can solve these problems. You need to just figure out what your North Stars are. Ask yourself if you're doing 100% of what you can, right, to be successful with deployment off of some of this research here. It is very possible. And then, again, like the effort and the sweat that goes into it is worth it, because those organizations that implement CRM successfully, they are outperforming by a lot, right? The teams that really give up, right? So don't give up. It is a problem worth solving, and figure out what your true North Stars are, right?
Awesome. I think that's a great note to end on. With everything that we covered today, an idea that came across is I'm going to send some resources along with the recording. So kind of how you can crawl, walk, run a CRM deployment, how you can start to build a sales process from scratch. Those are all resources that we have on the website that I'll send along with this recording. But thank you all, as always, for joining Workshop Wednesdays. We hope you are enjoying this kind of more general topic where we discuss a problem, issue, research related to outside sales, and then present it for discussion. So we'll see you next week. Matt, cannot tell you how much I appreciate not only you uncovering this research from sales management, but also being proactive and just calling Bob and asking him what he thinks about this topic, and especially outside sales.
Absolutely. Yeah. Glad to be on this week in place of JT. And yeah, thanks again.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.